Well, Batman the Animated Series was a huge part of my childhood, and for whatever dumb reason, I never went and saw Batman Mask of the Phantasm right when that came out on the big screen. Well, you know what? I finally fixed that little problem and watched that movie, and it's freaking amazing. What did you think of this movie? Let's talk about that in the comments. Welcome to Durbania. I'm Durbin, and this is my theological analysis for Batman Mask of the Phantasm. I'm telling you, this has got to be one of the best Batman movies I have seen put to film. There was a point when I was watching this, I forgot it was an animated movie based off the animated series just because the storytelling was so good, the characters were deep, and the musical score was just so good. So this movie just pulled me in more ways than one. Now, if you're like me, and somehow you've totally missed seeing this movie, and I'm a DC fan, and I love Batman. I'm mad at myself that I missed this movie as a kid growing up, and I could have seen it right when it came out in theaters. But if you're like me and you missed it, you definitely should check out this movie. Especially, before I continue on, because I'm gonna dive into some spoilers and spoil some of the twists and stuff. And if you haven't seen this movie, go watch the movie. It's pretty darn good.
Vengeance blackens the soul, Bruce. I always feared you would become that which you fought against. You walk the edge of that abyss every night.
So diving into Mask of the Phantasm, what's so interesting is this exploration of Batman and Bruce Wayne and that decision point in his life where he became Batman. So in a way, it's a little bit of a Batman origin story. It kind of dives into, that Batman the Animated Series feel and gives us an origin to that Batman, but it does it without going all the way back to his parents dying, which we have seen 50 quadrillion times portrayed over and over and over again. So it doesn't go back that far. It goes back to, I would say a college-age Bruce Wayne. Right where he's at that point in his life where he's started a plan. He has made a vow at his parents' grave, and it's a secret vow, so we don't really know what the vow is, but yeah, we do. It's that vow, basically, to become Batman and stop what happened to him from happening to anybody else. So really, that's the essence of this vow that he's made at his parents' tombstone, so he's already on the path and plan to become Batman. So Bruce Wayne has this plan, and it's pretty much set in stone until love interrupts the plan. So part of the flashbacks and getting to know Bruce Wayne and what led him to becoming Batman is seeing his first love, Andrea Beaumont. So as he meets this girl, he falls insanely in love with her. They do a really good job in just a few quick flashbacks, really bringing us up to speed on Bruce Wayne's first true love. And they do a great job with the chemistry and everything, so you really buy into it. In fact, it's heart-wrenching to see a Bruce Wayne this happy, knowing, he becomes the Dark Knight, which is awesome because we all want Batman, but it's heart-wrenching to see a Bruce Wayne this happy at this point in his life. But here's what that does for us, and here's how it deepens the story. You see, his heart was destroyed when his parents were murdered in front of him in an alley. We all know that story. He's at his parents', gravestone in the first of these flashbacks, just showing us how much he's dealing with that pain. Then, love interrupts his plans. Love comes in and shows him a happiness that he never thought he could have. In fact, one of the most telling scenes and emotional scenes in this movie is pouring down rain, and Andrea calls up Bruce Wayne, and he doesn't want to talk to her on the phone because he's really struggling with the idea of fulfilling his vow, of doing what he promised his parents he would do, and now finding a happiness he never thought he'd have.
I know I made a promise, but I didn't see this coming. I didn't count on being happy.
It is sincerely one of the most telling scenes in this movie, and it shows you what was going on in Bruce Wayne's heart, that it was so dark and he was in so much pain that he actually believed he would never be happy. So this path of the Batman, this path of the vigilante, seemed like the perfect path for his life to stop this pain from happening to anybody else. But all of a sudden, love interrupts those plans. And through that love, he finds a joy and he finds a happiness that he thought would forever elude him. And he was so, for lack of a better word, happy to have that in his life. And really, he's not wrestling with his parents because they're dead. He's wrestling with himself. He's wrestling with his own heart and this vow that he's really made to himself, trying to get himself to release himself from the vow. And then along comes Andrea showing up here at the gravestone saying, your parents must have sent me because they want you to be happy. And so you see he's beginning to let go of those plans. And then right when he lets go of the plans to be the Batman and the vigilante, right when he lets go of it and embraces the joy and proposes to Andrea, that's where we really get into her father was a good businessman, but also kind of slimy because he worked with some very slimy, people, some really bad mobsters. And he owed them a lot of money. Well, now they show up at his house and say, the bill has come due. So what does he do? This guy grabs his daughter Andrea and says, we got to get out of here because if we don't, they're going to kill me and they're going to kill you. And so Andrea has lost everything. She's lost her engagement, she's lost her love, she's lost the life that she's known because her father made these shady business deals and now these mobsters are calling in the debt, and so now she has to flee. And Bruce Wayne, the moment he embraces this joy and this happiness, this love in his life, it's suddenly ripped away from him in the most cruel way possible when he gets a note from Andrea saying that the engagement is off and that she's gone off to Europe with her father and the ring gets returned to him. And so he embraces the Batman and becomes Batman. Now here's what I want to dig into a little bit. I think letting that love in his heart and that joy in his heart, even though it was so cruelly ripped away from him, actually saved him. Because it showed him that there is that possibility for happiness. And who knows how dark he would have been if he didn't have that love and that joy briefly in his life. But that love and joy may have elevated him more, and he never fell into that darkness of vengeance. Alfred points out in this movie that, he toes the line. And it's pretty scary, but Alfred is proud of Bruce for never falling into that pit of vengeance. Because if Bruce had fallen into that pit and was a killer and killed the people that he was trying to stop, he would be no better than the criminals, which is what I love about Batman and the general stories of Batman where he has the line that he won't cross, that he will not kill. It's because he will not step down to their level and be the very villains that he's trying to get rid of and get off the streets. He will not come down to that level because as dark as the persona is that he carries, he also carries a certain amount of light in his heart and he won't step down into that darkness. Now you have Andrea, who is going through some really tough times in her life. She had the love of her life, she was engaged, and these mobsters cruelly ripped that away from her. And now, as they've escaped and been gone for a while, these mobsters found them and her father gets killed. And what's interesting is, this is a little bit of a Joker origin story. The guy that killed her father is the Joker before he was the Joker. What was smart about this Joker origin story is, we saw him before he was the Joker, but we didn't actually see the transformation into the Joker. So what turned him into that remains a mystery, and that's what's awesome. They kept the mystery alive, which breeds power and fear into the character of the Joker, and that was a really smart way that they dealt with his character, but it was also a smart way of making the Joker a focal point for Andrea of somebody that she really wanted to get vengeance on. So she becomes this Phantasm. She puts on this costume, learns these skills, returns to Gotham City in a murderous rage.
Your angel of death awaits.
So she goes through and starts knocking out these mobsters one at a time and finally sets her sights on the Joker. But what's so fascinating about the picture presented here is when Andrea comes back into Gotham and Bruce finds her and all that stuff, he's willing to lay down Batman. He's willing to stop it. He is just so happy to have that love back. I mean, there's this scene where they're together and they're happy again, and he's willing to embrace that happiness. But this shows you the sheer power of vengeance. Yeah, it seems tempting because it's so cruel that these people took her fiance from her, took her father from her, took her life from her. They took so much from her. And yes, it's tempting to make them pay, to come back and rain down vengeance upon them. It's tempting. But look what it cost her. Because vengeance is unforgiveness. It's grabbing a hold and never letting go, so being unable to receive. Bruce was still in a position where he could still receive that happiness, love, and joy, and he was willing to set aside Batman and be with Andrea and have that love in his life. She, however, as much as she wanted to be with Bruce Wayne, as much as she wanted that happiness in her life, she was unable to receive it because she would not let go of her vengeance. So even as she's killing these mobsters, there's no satisfaction in it. In fact, even by the end of this, where she finally gets a hold of the Joker, there is no satisfaction there. And it ends with her being utterly alone.
Do you want to be alone?
I am.
Not only with her being utterly alone, but her hurting Bruce Wayne. So her vengeance, hurt the people that she loved who were innocent, and it hurt herself and kept her alone. So I feel like this movie is a great picture of learning to let love interrupt our plans, to rise above the darkness, rise above unforgiveness and vengeance, and instead of just sinking down into it, because sinking down into it robs us of the joy and the life that we really want to be living. Holding unforgiveness towards somebody else poisons us, not them. The Joker wasn't poisoned by her hatred. She was poisoned by her own hatred. In Mark 11:24 and 25, Jesus talks about a faith that can move mountains. But then he follows that up by saying, if you have anything against anyone, forgive them, so that your Father in heaven will forgive you of your sins. He's talking about how crucial forgiveness is when it comes to faith, and how detrimental unforgiveness can be to our faith. See, when we're in that unforgiveness, like I said, we're holding on. And in that position, we can't receive. But the moment we decide we're going to surrender our right to vengeance, no matter how painful it is, and we make the decision to open up and let go, this is a receiving position. Bruce, no matter how much pain he was in, no matter how much he could have given into vengeance, was in that receiving position. So he was able to rise above that and be a vigilante that brings justice instead of vengeance. He's not out there to bring vengeance. He's not a murderer. He hasn't succumbed to that level because he's able to rise above it. Whereas Andrea let the bitterness overcome her, and she dropped down into that level of vengeance, and it left her walled off from that joy that she really truly wanted to enter into. So to me, Batman, Mask of the Phantasm, is an amazing picture of learning to let go and let love interrupt our plans. Because when we let go of that darkness and that need for vengeance and we forgive, it's amazing how God's love will elevate us up. So did you see Batman Mask of the Phantasm? What are your thoughts about this movie? Let's talk about that in the comments. And while you're there, hit the subscribe button to become a Durbanian. Hit the bell by the subscribe button so you're notified for my next theological analysis or movie review, ranking video, or anything else I do here. I'm Durbin. Thanks for checking out Durbania.